Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm going to get started a little bit with a couple of words about why we're here and what happened during World War II. So, as you can see, this is a photo of the medal that these guys are going to receive today. And as most of you know, World War II's background, 1941, we were kind of pushed into World War II. There's a local paper showing what happened, and so as you, again, I assume that everybody knows the World War II background like I do, so that's probably my mistake. But Germany started in 1938 when they invaded Poland on September, and the Japanese started the conflict in the Pacific in 1937 in July. So back then there was a big aggression to overtake other countries that had supplies that they needed. As a result, it turned the whole world into a massive war. And we didn't get into it until 1941. And Hitler had no qualms to talk about what he was going to do with the French, with the rest of Europe, as well as with the United States. So from there, what I wanted to kind of point out was here's a map of 1922, after World War I. And you can see the lines of where the countries were. It's interesting to note where way up here, where the USSR line is, because in a moment I'll show you 20 years later, after Nazi Germany came in and started to invade, and you can see the difference. So something had to be done. That red was Nazi Germany, and that line that I showed you was down near Poland. Prior to that, you can see where the Poland line is in USSR. So Nazi Germany was taking over pretty quickly, in a matter of just a couple of years. And they definitely had their sights on coming to the United States, as well as they made an unofficial pact with Japan to take over the United States. They were going to basically split it in half. And then fortunately, the invasion in Normandy, 1944, the 75th anniversary is coming up, we were able to overcome the German forces and have them unconditionally surrender. That was, I believe, May 8th, 1945, Bill's birthday. So, I guess what I could do, seems we're still waiting for a couple of people, but I don't want to have everybody sit around, even though it's fun. So I want to talk about some of the guys that are here, and I'm just going to kind of get to some of them in order, if I could, as you can see. The guy on the left, I should say, or on the right if you're looking at it, is Santo de Salvo. Santo is sitting right here. And these are the guys that we're here to honor today. And it really is an honor. We want to thank you all for what you've done. I hope you guys can hear me. I really don't want to be bending down like this, so just yell at me if you can't hear me. Staff Sergeant Santo de Salvo received a Purple Heart for injuries sustained during battle in World War II, in which his left shoulder was hit badly with shrapnel during enemy fire. De Salvo also received a Distinguished Service Cross for bravery and heroism in the face of absolute danger when his unit was pinned down again by heavy enemy fire. De Salvo made a split decision and rose to climb heavily guarded terrain and prevented any further injuries to his fellow soldiers. De Salvo was part of the waves of D-Day invasions into southern France from Italy by way of an LST to open additional fronts to relieve the pressure from the all-or-nothing Normandy invasion. And so I like that song. If you go back a little bit to the map, you'll see where I'm talking about that the southern invasion from Italy over to the southern part of France needed some reinforcements to try to take a lot of the Germans to fight on 2 or 3 fronts in order to keep the pressure moving around. Otherwise, Normandy would not have worked out like it did. And the next handsome gentleman is Fern Frechette. Oh, he's on the other side. And that's Fern. This is Fern right here. Fern had been, like all the others here today, literally all over the European continent. Frechette has many memories from breaking enemy codes to liberating POWs from notorious Nazi death camps. But on one visit to France, he was with the General Patton's Third Army. He and two other soldiers took a jeep to go look for some booze for their sergeant. That's the way it was, right? They met a nun and a small French girl on an old dirt road. Fern spoke French. They called him Frenchie. So the girl said in French that there were some Germans in a barn nearby. The three soldiers took positions across and opposite from the barn door. Frechette was armed with a machine gun while a sergeant tossed a grenade at the front door. When the door swung open, more than 30 armed German soldiers surrendered to these three young, scared rookies. Frechette was ordered to remove the gun from the enemy officer, which he did bravely, with his knees knocking in uncertainty. The heroics in the way these guys lived their lives are pretty amazing. On the end is Staff Sergeant Rocco DeGloria. Let's see if I have a picture of it. Oh, there's a picture of Rocco right there in uniform. Staff Sergeant Rocco DeGloria had been awarded 2 Purple Hearts. DeGloria was once thrown into the air from a bomb blast with such force it resulted in the fillings in his teeth falling out. That happens every day, right? In June of 1944, at the age of 19, DeGloria found himself on just the 4th wave into Normandy. To this day, he won't discuss the horrors of that invasion, but we've seen the movies and the clips, and we can respect his reasoning. From Normandy, he marched and fought also under General Patton, through France, Belgium, Holland, the Battle of the Bulge, and their way into Germany. In the middle of all this, DeGloria was also hospitalized for 80 days in Great Britain due to frozen feet. His doctor wanted to amputate, but DeGloria refused and insisted on waiting longer. Thankfully, he healed up and then returned to combat. I don't know about wanting to return to combat. And then Charlie Sanderson is right here. Thank you, Charlie. I've got you just have to bear with me while I play with these slides. Charlie Sanderson was part of 5 major battles during World War II. Sanderson recalled one in particular, landing on Omaha Beach in Normandy. It was about a week after the initial invasion, and the Allies were only 2 miles inland. The LST that he was traveling on was one of the first to be on shore. However, the LST was stuck in a bomb crater, and they were sitting ducks while being shelled by heavy artillery and mines. But this 20-year-old had much more to worry about, believe it or not. He checked the water depth with a long pole. The water was too deep. Had he just followed his initial direct orders to open the front hatch, the LST would have tipped over. Sanderson couldn't swim, and he knew that would have been his last day. But fortunately, he didn't obey orders at one time. No, actually he did, but he got back to them and let them know about the depth of the water. So that's a brief introduction to our 4 wonderful gentlemen here. Thank you, guys. Maybe we can get a round of applause. Thank you. I'd like to know also about veterans. What do we have here for veterans? Can I see a raise of hands for the? Wow, this is fantastic. Thank you all very, very much. And we also have some World War II veterans here other than these guys. Can I see a show of hands? Who is here from World War II? Come on, Bill, let's see it. There you go. Thank you, guys. Amazing. And I think at this point I'd like to acknowledge some of the dignitaries that I know that are here. Leominster Mayor Dean Mazzarella, and we'll be hearing from him in a short few minutes. Rick Voter is here, Director of Veteran Services for Leominster, Lancaster, and Sterling. Without Rick's help, this wouldn't have happened. Thank you, Rick. Kyle Shelton is sitting over there. He's with Dean Tran. Dean is the Massachusetts Senator. Thanks for being here. Wherever he is. There he is down over here. Thank you. And Consul General is here. Wonderful. Consul.
Natalie Higgins.
Okay, Natalie Higgins is here also. I see Claire. Natalie Higgins, Massachusetts State Representative. Is she here? I didn't see her. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, hi. Sorry. I didn't see her come in. Is Francisco in here yet? Oh, there you go. Hi, Val. Francisco Urena, Secretary.
You've been gone 6 months to Florida. You forgot us all.
I forgot everybody. It's been 6 months. Yeah, you know, it's the warmth. It's the sun. Secretary for Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services, Francisco Urena. Thank you. City Councilor Claire Frieder is here from Leominster. Thank you, Claire, for being always supportive. The Boston Office Consul General of France, Arnaud Montre, is here. Thank you very much, sir. And you'll be hearing from him, fortunately, as well, very soon. You ready?
Ready?
We're almost ready. No, we're almost ready. Okay, I'm ready. Do you want to take the mic?
Yep. So at this time, what we're going to do is we're going to present the colors. We're going to play the French national anthem and then the American national anthem. So I would ask you all to please rise for the presentation of the colors if you are able. Present colors. Oh, wait till they stop. Retire the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Also attending is City Councilor Frank Ardinger. He's somewhere. I was talking to him a little while ago. Thank you, Frank, for being here. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. Thank you. I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with Leominster Mayor Dean Mazzarella to come on up and say a few words. Dino?
Good afternoon. It's good to see you all. I think some people are a little bit worried that the day after Christmas we might not have a full house. Well, welcome to the Leominster Veterans Center. It's a full house. Thank you for making this a special day. You know, back some years ago, Rich Early was the Veterans Director here, and he called me one day and said, "We got to go down and visit one of your neighbors." And I thought, sure, let's go. And he took me down to the corner of 5th and Carter Street, and I said, "Where are we going?" And he asked me if I knew who the gentleman was that lived here. And I said, "Yeah, Mr. Pizzuti." He said, "You know Mr. Pizzuti's story?" And I said, "Well, no. I mean, I've lived a couple doors away from him, but never heard about his story." Mr. Pizzuti was a World War I veteran. And like every other veteran, we never get to hear this story. They go, they serve, they do their job, they come back, and they move on. Charlie took the time to meet. He's so captivated and so interested in this subject matter. He took a bunch of veterans and told their story. Some of you maybe heard this story, but he took these stories and made them national. Just like on the walls here, all of our veterans, just some of them. In that corner are the veterans where some 6 and 5 members of one family served at the same time. These stories are incredible, but they never get told, or seldom get told. And then Charlie put this all together, and the next thing I know, these guys are headlining at Barnes & Noble, and there's a line of people waiting to talk to them and have their book signed. And a couple of times I remember Charlie went up and said, "Do you guys need a break?" And they said, "Absolutely not." They were at ease. They were comfortable now. Comfortable telling not only their stories, but the other stories of those other veterans that served along with them. They were very, very serious about that. They didn't want it to be just their story. They wanted it to be the story of other veterans that served with them. It's pretty admirable, isn't it? Isn't that pretty amazing? So Charlie took this, really, Charlie, that's an amazing what you did. And took this story and brought it all over, and people read this book all the time. And some people go back and reread it. They're like, I live next door to these people, right? You live next door. I bet a lot of nephews, nieces, grandsons, and daughters maybe never heard the story. Wasn't easy to have them tell the story, was it? They didn't like telling the story. It was just their job. It was what they did. They served. So today, this is extra special to have the consulate come out and our secretary. This guy does an amazing job. I don't think he takes a day off. He's out there all the time advocating for veterans, as is our veterans director here locally. And you say it all the time. It's Veterans Day every day in Massachusetts, but in particular here in Leominster, and that's because of all of our veterans. There used to be a bar in the back here. Few veterans could come in and decide to take it out and do this, because our veterans come back and continue to give and give and give. We were just down in Bedford the other day, just before Christmas. Everybody knows our veterans. It's amazing. Everybody, Secretary, knows our veterans, from our volunteers that go down, and just an amazing thing. So a very proud moment here in the city of Leominster. We want to congratulate our Italian friend here from Methuen for coming out and visiting with us also and telling his story. It's an extra special day. Thank you all for sharing with that.
Thank you, Dean. Very nice. Thank you. So next, Well, we have Dean Tran's representative here, Kyle Shelton. Kyle, would you like to come up for a minute?
Unfortunately, Senator Tran couldn't make it today, but in his stead, it is my great honor as his legislative director to present these citations on behalf of Massachusetts State Senate to Staff Sergeant Santo Di Salvo, Tech Corporal Charles M. Sanderson, Corporal Fernand E. Frechette, and Staff Sergeant Rocco DeGloria for their valor and bravery and the United States' decisive role in liberating France and ending World War II. And that is a feat that we could never fully repay them for, and their bravery and their valor is just outstanding. And we wanted to honor them by presenting these citations. I also have a citation that I'm honored to present on behalf of Senator O'Connor Ives, and that is for Staff Sergeant DeGloria as well. So at this time I can present the citations. Okay.
Take a look at that. That's beautiful. Pretty amazing stuff. Pretty amazing. Thanks, Kyle. That's amazing. That's awesome. Natalie Higgins is here. Would you like to come up and say a few words, please?
I will be brief. This is a beautiful, beautiful crowd to honor these gentlemen. Thank you so much on behalf of the House of Representatives for your service to the United States and to France. And I'm just very humbled to be able to spend today with you. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. I'd like to introduce the Massachusetts Secretary of Veteran Affairs. His name is Francisco Urena. He's a former U.S. Marine serving from 1998 to 2006, originally from the Dominican Republic. I'm going to read all this, His family moved to Lawrence, Mass. When he was 4 years old before relocating to South Florida, where he joined the Marines. Urena was a security guard at the U.S. embassies in Syria and Kyrgyzstan. He was later moved to Iraq as a tank commander during Operation Freedom. During a fight with insurgents, he was struck by a flying glass and debris, including a piece of scrap metal that became stuck in his left cheek. Ouch. Because the surgery to remove the piece could leave a permanent scar, Urena has opted not to have it removed. However, he was awarded the Purple Heart for his injury. Please welcome Francisco Urena. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And what a privilege it is to be among our veterans and our families and friends of them here in the great city of Leominster. To Mayor Mazzarella, thank you for hosting us today and opening your doors to veterans for opportunities today and every day. It is a great sense of community that happens here. To Representative Higgins and to all of our veterans from our World War II heroes who are being recognized today, those who have received recognition, and those who are among us. From our youngest generation of veterans, those from Iraq and Afghanistan's of wars that are being fought today. Just 100 years ago, World War I men and women participated in the liberation of France. And this year we recognize that during our Veterans Day, which was Armistice Day. And today we recognize these 4 men who followed in the footsteps of those from World War I generation. On behalf of our Governor Charlie Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito and 365,000 veterans who call Massachusetts home, it is a privilege to be part of a witnessing of such tradition of a foreign country, the country of France. And to Council General Mentor, thank you for this continued tradition of recognizing our veterans in the aspect of your country and the French people doing that. It's such a true privilege to know that their sacrifice is one that has not been forgotten in many places. We have not forgotten here, but you know that the country who was liberated has not forgotten. I'm sure it is a good sense of recognition to these men and so many who have received the Medal of Honor and that Medal of Legion Honor. And so a medal that dates back to Napoleon Bonaparte, who created the recognition, and that who has been being presented today. It is such a special day, and a special day for all of us who will witness it. And so, Council General, thank you for your partnership, your steadfastness in your ability to continue the sense of recognition. And special thanks goes to our veteran service officers who are in every city and town. Men like Rick Vautour here, your local representative, who is there to assist our veterans and their families in their aspects of needs, but also in days like today, their aspect of recognition. And to those who planned this special day, I know a lot of work went into the focus and the research. Thank you for including that sense of purpose to make this ceremony that much more meaningful. Thank you, and congratulations to you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Pretty amazing. Now, I'd like to introduce, and I will read some of this, the Boston French Consul Arnaud Montreux. Prior to his assignment in Boston, Mr. Montreux was Deputy Assistant Secretary for the North America in the Bureau of the Americas at the French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs, responsible for bilateral relationships with the U.S. and Canada. Arnaud Montreux joined the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Bureau of Strategic Affairs, International Security and Disarmament. He served as counselor at the French Embassy in Moscow, and then became advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Russian, Eastern European, and defense and security issues. Arnaud Montreux served as senior counselor and spokesman at the French Embassy in New Delhi. Arnaud is an alumnus of the École, I'm going to try my French here, École Normale Supérieure and the École Nationale d'Administration. How's that? He holds an MA in Civil Law from the University of Paris, too, and graduated from Sciences Po. He teaches global affairs at the Paris School of International Affairs, and it's with great honor I introduce to you all the Consul General of France, Arnaud Montreux. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you, veterans. It's a privilege for me to be here today, 60 years after World War II, and the great events that took place and the liberation of France you were referring to. Dear Mayor Mazzarella, dear Representative Higgins, dear Richard Vautour, dear Charlie Valera, dear friends and family, and of course, dear World War II veterans, Private Rocco Di Gloria Sr., Staff Sergeant Santo Di Salvo, Technician Fernand Fréchette, Private First Class Charles Sanderson. I'm honored to be with you today on this very special occasion to honor you as 4 American veterans who fought in France during the Second World War. Today, I would like to pay tribute to these true American heroes. It was during one of the darkest hours in the history of France that these 4 men came to my country, to a country across the Atlantic, 3,000 miles away, to a country that few of them knew at the time. At the time, they may have not known France, but they certainly knew what she represented. The values that were under attack by the Nazis were the same values that these young American men believed in: democracy, freedom, and justice. It was in the name of those values that they shed their blood, reinforcing the special bond between our 2 nations. The Nazis were sure of themselves. They thought nothing could reach them. But they hadn't reckoned with the fact that in democracies, such as France and the US, a great ideal gives great courage, and that free men are capable of giving their lives to save others. Let me take this opportunity to remember the ultimate sacrifice of so many of your comrades who now rest on French soil. They will remain forever in our hearts, and know that French schools every year go and visit those cemeteries in Normandy and elsewhere. We will perpetuate this remembrance. Private Rocco Di Gloria Sr., Staff Sergeant Santo Di Salvo, Technician Fernand Fréchette, and Private First Class Charles Sanderson, I want to personally convey to you the eternal gratitude of the French government and the people of France for your efforts to restore our freedom. You are true heroes for the United States and for France as well. Today is an occasion to remember and reflect upon the long-standing French-American friendship, from the Battle of Yorktown in 1781 to the trenches of the First World War, to the beaches of Normandy, and to the current military operations against terrorism. Our 2 countries have always fought together to defend our shared values, the values of freedom and democracy. France is America's oldest ally. France will never forget what it owes to the United States. We will never forget the solidarity between our 2 nations, the solidarity that prevailed during the 2 great tragedies of the 20th century. And those tragedies and this cooperation is based on a shared ideal, the dream and the passion for freedom. America has always remembered France's contribution to its great revolution. So in 1917, when France's independence was under attack, America was there to protect it. Secretary Urania just mentioned it. And in 1944, when France was occupied, America was there to free it. We know what this cost the people of America, our great sister country. So many sacrifices, so many losses, and so much misfortune. In today's complex world, I believe it is critical that we further strengthen these bonds, the bond that you embody as veterans of World War II. The veterans on stage today are the best testaments we have to truly understand the horrors that can arrive when these common values are threatened. It is in this spirit of remembrance and thankfulness that the Legion of Honor, the Légion d'honneur as we say in French, was first created by Napoleon Bonaparte in 1802 to reward extraordinary accomplishments and outstanding services rendered to France. It is France's highest distinction, and the President of the French Republic decided to grant it to all the people that participated in the liberation of our country as veterans. So today I have the great pleasure to announce that in recognition of your heroic actions and extraordinary accomplishments, the President of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron, has named you Chevalier of the Legion of Honor. You will be joining a group of remarkable individuals, such as President Dwight Eisenhower, U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell, and U.S. Army General George Patton, who all were granted this honor. It is now my distinct privilege to bestow the award upon each of you. Staff Sergeant Santo Di Salvo. In August 1944, you landed in southern France as part of Operation Dragoon. Later on, in Littleville, in France, when the squadron was pinned down in an open field by heavy enemy fire, you rose to your knees and turned your rifle on the machine gun position, drawing the hostile fire towards you, enabling your comrades to withdraw 50 yards away to shelter. Continuing to crawl forward, you threw 3 grenades, which destroyed the German machine gun. Staff Sergeant Santo Di Salvo, for your bravery and devotion to duty that day, you were awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. You were also awarded the Good Conduct Medal, the Bronze Star Medal, the European African Middle Eastern Campaign Ribbon, and the Combat Infantry Badge. Lastly, you were awarded the Purple Heart for a shrapnel injury sustained in your right shoulder. Staff Sergeant Santo Di Salvo, au nom du Président de la République, nous vous faisons chevalier dans l'Ordre national de la Légion d'honneur. Private First Class Charles Sanderson, you embarked on Utah Beach in Normandy under heavy gunfire from German encampments only 1 to 2 miles away. You successfully determined that your landing ship tank was stuck in a bomb crater of deep water, requiring your unit to wait in open fire until the tide changed. You would then go along to participate in the Battle of Saint-Lô, the Morton and Falaise Gap, the Battle of the Bulge, the capture of Paris, and the crossing of the Rhine River. Private First Class Charles Sanderson, for your bravery and devotion to duty, you were awarded the European, African, and Middle Eastern Theatre Campaign Ribbon, the Good Conduct Medal, the Victory Medal, and the Motor Vehicle Drivers Award. Private First Class Charles Sanderson, in the name, au nom du Président de la République française, nous vous faisons chevalier dans l'Ordre national de la Légion d'honneur. Technician Fernand Fréchette. You were born in Montreal, Canada, and I was very happy to learn that you speak fluently French. On August 28, 1944, near Jutigny, in France, a young French girl told you that there were Germans in a nearby town. As the only French speaker in your corps, You communicated this information to your officers, which directly led to the successful capture of 20 German soldiers. Technician Fernand Fréchette, for your bravery and devotion that day, you were awarded the Bronze Star Medal, the European African Middle Eastern Service Medal with an arrowhead, and the Good Conduct Medal. Technician Fernand Fréchette, au nom du Président de la République, nous vous faisons chevalier de l'Ordre national de la Légion d'honneur. Private Rocco Di Gloria Senior. You were a rifleman in Company A of the 60th Infantry Regiment. You participated in the campaign of Normandy, the Battle of Saint-Lô, the liberation of Paris, and combat in Belgium, Holland, and Germany. Private Rocco Di Gloria Senior, for your bravery and devotion to duty, you were awarded the Belgian Courageur and the American Bronze Medal, Bronze Star, during combat on July the 3rd, 1944 in Saint-Lô, France. You sustained a shrapnel wound, an injury for which you received the Purple Heart. Private Rocco Di Gloria, au nom du Président de la République, nous vous faisons chevalier dans l'Ordre national de la Légion d'honneur.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Let's get it over here. Anything you'd like to say? We'd love to hear from you.
First, I would like to thank my family for coming with me and all the other people that are here to witness the ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, we're waiting for an extension cord. Can you? How you doing? Can you hold on to this? You might have to get up a little bit, but I think. Oh, come on! It's the best part of the ceremony.
First off, I'd like to thank France for this great honor, and I'd like to share some of this with the comrades that were there with me. I wasn't alone. So, also, I'd like to thank all the people that are here today.
Wonderful. Fern Michelle. Fern, would you like to say hello to anybody and thank them? Or not? Or just say hello?
I want to say hello, and I want to thank everyone that attended this forum. Makes me feel good. And I guess I need to do a job.
Okay, nice job. Thank you.
I want to thank every one of you, and may God always bless America.
All right.